Hi and welcome to This Week in Gaming for the week ending the 22nd of February, the place for the hottest news, the new releases and top 5 games of the week. Let's start with this week's news. First in this week's news, remember Doom, the first classic person shooter that invented the gaming genre? Though the franchise has taken some considerable time off in the past decade, the latest iteration is apparently not far from prime time. Originally named Doom 4, the somewhat confusingly named Doom is headed to beta at some point this year. Access keys will ship with box copies of Wolfenstein: The New Order that will be available this May. As of right now, the only way to get into said beta will be to pick up a copy of Wolfenstein on either PlayStation 3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, or PC. As for where the Doom beta will actually be playable is another question altogether. There are no announced platforms for Doom, though we suspect it to be on next gen and PC at the very least. It's also not clear if the game will still be a showcase for id Software's latest version of id Tech, the engine that powers id Games. One thing for certain, Doom co-creator John Carmack won't have a hand in this one, as he's moved on to the wilds of virtual reality at Oculus VR. Also in the news this week, an infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of typewriters would rapidly type the works of Shakespeare. How would they do at video games? Currently, at the moment of writing this, over 50,000 people are attempting to play Pokemon Red at the same time. At times that's been as high as 150,000. That is, there is one game of Pokemon Red, and all 150,000 people are controlling it at once, and it's going strangely well. Twitch Plays Pokemon is half art project and half reality show for the 21st century. The idea is relatively simple. Pokemon Red, the 1996 Game Boy hit that kickstarted the Pokemon franchise, is running on an emulator hooked up to Twitch TV. Viewers can enter button commands in the chat window and they get passed on to the emulator, which enters them in order. In theory, it harnesses the wisdom of the crowds to find the best way through the game, with playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But something that first started as a simple project to see if the games can work together to reach a common goal has turned into something more. Over the 11 days it's run so far, the stream has seemed to have gone into a silly religious state, with things like Bird Jesus, a Pidgeot that has survived and successfully became the strongest Pokemon in this chaos of a game, the False Prophet, a Flareon that has been released now, but once was an Eevee that viewers could turn into a Vaporeon that could be taught Surf. Plus many more events, one that includes a Helix fossil that is completely useless till later on in the game but has become a symbol of this Poke religion's god, as it is usually clicked on so much during battles because of it being the top item. Either way, it seems this phenomenon is nowhere near finished, and it will be nice to see just how far they will go on this journey of chaos. Finally in this week's news, after 17 years, Bioshock developer Irrational Games has closed its doors and laid off staff. The unexpected event appears to be much different than the usual failing studio closure tale, as Irrational are just wrapping up the second DLC release for one of its parent company Take-Two Interactive's most successful titles in Bioshock Infinite, a franchise with reported retail revenues of over $500 million. An open letter published by Irrational Games founder and Bioshock creative director Ken Levine appears to be personally taking most of the responsibility for the closure, expressing the celebrated game developer's desire to make a different kind of game than we've done before, and he claims requires a small team with a flatter structure and more direct relationship with gamers. Levine notes that his original intention had been to form a new independent startup studio with his own capital, before being convinced by Take-Two to remain in-house with a more agile relationship. 17 years is a long time to do any job, even the best one, and working with the incredible team at Irrational Games is indeed the best job I've ever had. While I'm deeply proud of what we've accomplished together, my passion has turned to making a different kind of game than we've done before. To meet the challenge ahead, I need to refocus my energy on a smaller team with a flatter structure and more direct relationship with gamers. In many ways, it will be a return to how we started, a small team making games for the core gaming audience. I am winding down Irrational Games as you know it. I'll be starting a smaller, more entrepreneurial endeavour at Take-Two. That is going to mean parting ways with all but about 15 members of the Irrational team. There's no great way to lay people off, and our first concern is to make sure that the people who are leaving have as much support as we can give them during this transition. Besides financial support, the staff will have access to the studio for a period of time to say their goodbyes and put together their portfolios. Other Take-Two studios will be on hand to discuss opportunities with the company, and will be hosting a recruiting day where we'll be giving third-party studios and publishers a chance to hold interviews with departing Irrational staff. It is unclear why the talent-filled Boston-based studio was deemed unable to continue without Levine and the Chosen 15, but at least it sounds like the newly unemployed will have better opportunities than most developers affected by studio closures. Our thoughts go out to them and their families all the same. As for the Bioshock franchise, publisher Ukie Games will now have the complete control over the license, so it's very likely that we haven't seen the last of that wonderful world. Now it's time for the UK Top 5.
Okay, people, let's go to work.
A spazio verticale, Balotelli, che gol, splendida rete.
I got it.
And that's it for the UK Top 5 this week. To check the full Top 20, just click on the links in the details below. Now it's time for the new releases for Friday the 28th of February, starting with Thief on the 360, PS3, Xbox One, PS4 and PC. Next, we have Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2 on the 360, PS3 and PC. Also, we have Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare on the 360 and Xbox One. Next, we have Senran Kagura Burst on the 3DS. Also, we have Tales of Symphonia Chronicles on the PS3. And finally, we have Resident Evil 4 Ultimate HD Edition on the PC. That's it for another week in gaming for the week ending the 22nd of February 2014. Before we end this week, just want to give a shout out to two of my friends, Alexandra and Matt Gregory, for raising £306 for Special Effect by doing a non-stop 24-hour game stream this past Saturday. Special Effect is a charity that helps people with disabilities be able to enjoy video games like most of us take for granted. If you want to find out more about this charity, just click on the link in the details below. Also, follow us on Twitter or Facebook in the links below, and also if you like the show, click on the subscribe button and the like button below. And remember to tune in next week for more of the hottest news, the UK Top 5 and new releases of the week, right here on This Week in Gaming.